How's it going, guys? Cody, guys, back again, dropping yet another video. Right, guys, this time it's a story in the Daily Record, link in the description below, like I always do. It's about Polmont Prison. Now, Polmont Prison is a young offenders institution, HMP, and also female prison as well, from what I believe. It's been in the media a lot for shocking suicide attempts and prison suicides. Katie Allen probably being the standout one. But no one's, when it comes to suicides in prison, no prisoner's name's worth more than the others. A death is a death in custody, and I can't stand them. You know my stance on them, guys. Sadly, prison body bags are as much part of prison life as the spice, the understaffing, the violence, the drugs. It's the reality, guys, and I'm sorry to say that. There's three ways you can leave prison: released, so through the gate; over the wall, escape, which happens every now and again. And in a body bag, suicide. And sadly, suicide. We've lost over in England and Wales, because Scotland's a separate entity altogether, because they have had justice devolved to Scotland. They run their own ship, the Scottish Prison Service and stuff, and the Scottish Government. We've had around 80 suicides in England and Wales in 2018. As of November, we'd had more suicides this year than the whole of last year, and that was with 2 months to go. Ridiculous. Right, guys, my thoughts and my prayers are with anybody that's lost a loved one through suicide in prison. Like I say, this is Scotland. It's a separate entity to England and Wales. I'm going to go through it now, guys. So the headline reads: Polmont Prison, which is in Falkirk. Prison suicide probe after 30 young inmates tried to take their own lives in the past 5 years. Statistics show that since 2013, a detainee at Polmont Young Offenders Institution has tried to kill themselves every 2 months. And then you can see at the start, guys, you've got pictures here of Polmont suicide victims. You've got Katie Allen, Craig Clifton, Robert Wagstaff, Ross McComb, Daniel Barclay, Rajan Merchant, and William Lindsay. I think William Lindsay was also known as William Brown. God bless them all. May they all rest in peace. Katie Allen's family specifically they're challenging the Scottish Government and stuff, and they've got I think like a SNP, Scottish National, like a Scottish Parliament member on there fighting their battle as well, which is, you've got nothing but support for you guys. A prison hit with a spate of suicides has had 30 inmates attempt to take their own lives in the past 5 years. Statistics show that since 2013, a detainee at Polmont Young Offenders Institution has tried to kill themselves every 2 months. Only Sawton Prison, which is in Edinburgh, has had a higher number of incidents. Staff at the Edinburgh jail recorded 35 attempted suicides, although the high security prison has about double the population. The Scottish Government has announced a review into young people's mental health services at the prison, following a Sunday Mail investigation into the premature death of Katie Allen, 21, who died in June. Her case was highlighted along with the deaths of 5 teenagers at the jail before the independent inquiry was launched last month by Justice Secretary Humzu Yousaf. That was the MP I was referring to. Our investigation into the running of Polmont included 5 interviews with the families of 5 other teenagers who died at the prison, relatives of William Lindsay, 16 guys, God bless him, may rest in peace. Robert Wagstaff, 18, God bless Robert Wagstaff, may rest in peace. Daniel Barclay, 19, God bless you, may rest in peace. Craig Clifton, 19, God bless you, may rest in peace. Rajan Merchant, 17, God bless you, may rest in peace. And Ross McComb, 19, God bless Ross McComb, may rest in peace, spoke of their grief. There's been 11 deaths there since 2005. Solicitor Amar Anwar, who represents the families of Katie and William, said, Polmont and the Scottish Prison Service stand accused of hiding the true picture of the lives that are being lost. They manipulate figures and hide behind fatal accident inquiries which take place several years later, so they can avoid responsibility and true scrutiny. Can't argue with that, 1,000,000% correct. Sadly, many of the families, such as those of Katie Allen and William Lindsay, ask me the question, how many more must die before the cries of help are heard? Scottish Conservative mental health spokeswoman Annie Wells said, there are appalling statistics which should give all politicians pause for thought. Clearly, changes are much needed to improve the care of these vulnerable young people. This situation cannot continue, and all parties need to come together to find a solution to this crisis. The Scottish Prison Service, or the SPS, released the latest figures under the Freedom of Information laws. HMP Inverness had fewer suicide attempts in the same period, just 16. 16, one's too many. But it is a low population means that per head its rate was even higher than Polmont. The SBS said that since 2016, Polmont Young Offenders Institution had also held female offenders, while renovation took place at Cornson Vale, the country's only female prison, which is in Stirling. They added that the women are among the highest rate of self-harmers in the prison population, which may have contributed to Polmont's higher rates of attempted suicide. In November 93, women made up Polmont's total population of 458, but Saunton has also taken a similar number of females from Cornton Vale, and last month made up 100 of Edinburgh's 900 total. Across the prison population, 33% of attempted suicides involved 10 people. Just wow. 33% of all attempted suicides involved the same 10 people. Wow. Shocking. The SBS, or the Scottish Prison Service, added, "We have invested a great deal of time and energy into our suicide prevention team." Well, obviously not. "We are dealing with a complex and often troubled population where unfortunately self-harming behaviours do occur." Well, yeah, because it heightens and magnifies any issues they've got. On December the 5th, 2016, the SBS implemented the new suicide prevention strategy. Talk to me. The revised strategy introduced a concern form whereby staff could record when someone had self-harmed and initiate appropriate referrals, or if the risk of suicide was identified, place them on Talk to Me. This process again raised the profile of self-harm and improved recording and reporting of incidents by staff. Now, the prison population in Scotland is, I think, 7,300 approximately, compared to the UK, and compared to England and Wales, which is about 86,400. That number fluctuates, but they're talking about 2020. By 2021, 2022. The prison population in England and Wales will be 90,000, which is just off the scale. 33% of self-harm incidents came back to the same 10 people. So it's a smaller prison population in Scotland. What's going on at Polmont Prison is absolutely off the scale. It really worrying statistics and stuff and facts coming out of that prison. That, like I say, why people say, I often get people say to me, "You've left prison. Why do you keep talking about prison?" Because of stories like this. I can't like sleep at night if I don't speak out about what's going on within prisons. And by highlighting things and doing interviews with the media and taking part in documentaries, what I'm doing is I'm keeping prisons in the spotlight. Not just me. I'm nobody. I'm just a muppet. But there's many other people that are highlighting in a professional capacity with like the Prison Reform Trust and the Howard League for Penal Reform and other things like that. That are like, they're the go-to when it comes to prisons. If they're after a comment, they'll go to the Prison Reform Trust or the Howard League for Penal Reform, NACRO, and stuff like that. But what we're doing is we're keeping the papers and what's going on in our prisons, which is a humanitarian crisis of the highest order. We're keeping them in the papers and then keeping them in the public eye, and that puts pressure on the government, whether it be the British government, who are corrupt and scumbags, or it's the Scottish government and the Scottish Prison Service. And like I say, it has a domino effect and stuff. And like I say, you're seeing money being introduced into prisons now. For me, it's been mismanaged completely. But the point is, by highlighting deaths in custody and conditions and treatment of prisoners in the system, and by giving them a voice and by speaking out for them, you've got to remember, guys, I don't get paid for all these interviews. To be honest, I've become a bit sick of doing them to an extent. But I feel that I have to. If someone contacts me and says, "We're doing a story on this, and it's on prisons, and it's going to highlight the failings of the Ministry of Justice, or the Scottish Prison Service, or the Scottish Government, or whatever," then I'll speak out, man, because I've got a big mouth. I keep up to date with prison news. I'm not an expert on anything, but like I say, it's about highlighting the problems And Kate Ellen's family and William Lindsay's family, who's also known as William Brown's family, they're taking legal action against the Scottish government. And like I say, everyone should be doing that. If you've lost a loved one in prison, right, go through it. There's a prisoner that was incarcerated at HMP Bristol who took his own life. He was in prison for, I think, racially aggravated trespass or something, or racially aggravated something or other. And Kevin Crehan is called. That's his name was eluding me. His family are actually seeking legal advice and suing the Ministry of Justice. Took his own life in prison. I believe he took his own life. Did he die in prison or did he took his own life? I can't remember the case. I don't know if it was a suicide or... There's been that many suicides, guys, this year in prisons that I've covered, and deaths in custody. And when prisoners should have had medical treatment, they didn't. And then as a result, they died. I've covered so many stories this year that I can't pinpoint Kevin Crehan's situation, but my thoughts and prayers are obviously with him and with his family. All these young men and women here, like I say, Katie Allen, Craig Clifton, Robert Wagstaff, Ross McComb, Daniel Barclay, Rajan Merchant and William Lindsay. My thoughts and prayers are with all of your families. God bless you all. May you all rest in peace. Like I say, guys, people go to prison to be rehabilitated. They're leaving prisons in body bags. Katie Allen was 21 years old. I think she was 20. She hit someone when she was under the influence of drink. She drove off. I personally believe she should have been in prison for the offence, because I've been in prison with people for a hell of a lot less. She hit someone under the influence of alcohol and then drove off and left the scene, and then had to be tracked down by the police. So she didn't. It's not like she stopped and gave first aid. Then I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'd understand like a suspended sentence or something, but you can't hit someone, drive off, and then not go to prison. And like I said, and didn't know if the person was dead neither, but I wouldn't wish suicide on or death on anyone, not even my worst enemy, in this situation. Like I say, Cornton Vale, which is females only Scottish prison in Stirling, they've divided the population up between young offender, this HMP Polmont /young offenders, and also Saunton Prison in Edinburgh. Whilst this prison was being, like, I don't know, like overhauled or whatever it was, probably trying to bring it up to scratch, because like many prisons, it's probably in a state of disrepair. But yeah, guys, 30 young inmates have tried to take their own lives in the past 5 years. And then you've got the ones that have actually succeeded. Like I say, guys, prison puts you under very much duress. People might come on and say, oh, you get the old adage, people don't do the crime if you don't do the time. There's no consistency when it comes to sentencing, guys, and people that shouldn't be in prison are in prison. Those that should be in prison, like paedophiles and that are caught with indecent images of children, are getting suspended sentences, and then people are not paying parking fines or council tax and they're ending up in prison. I just don't get it, guys. The system's backwards and it's broken. But yeah, people go to prison to be reformed, rehabilitated, and are leaving in body bags. And it breaks my heart, guys. I don't care if it's England, Scotland, Wales. I don't particularly care. A death is a death, and it hurts me, and I have to cover it. I've just got to. And I can't even imagine what any of these families have gone through. I contemplated suicide when I was in prison, but my mum had already lost her brother. He left Armley prison and took his own life, and that's why I couldn't do it to my mum. But I was contemplating it, and I've got no shame in saying that. It's just honest, just me being honest. As guys and as prisoners, we do the whole match of, oh, prison's easy. Prison affects you massively. And prison can bring you to your knees. Some people once in the sentence, some people once a week, some people once an hour, some people once a day. Any issues you've got in your life, before I've got to start this again. Before offenders were ever offenders, for the most part, it was first victims. Now, Katie Allen, God bless her, right? May she rest in peace. She was raised in a very good family. You can see that from the pictures that I've seen of her. But a death is a death. But before offenders, for the most part, were ever offenders, they was first victims. Like I say, growing up in care, sexually abused, physically abused, parents were addict, battled addiction, mental health issues, behavioural problems, many things. Care leavers, do you know what I mean? Growing up in care and stuff, passed from pillar to post. And then we commit crime. And people see the crime, but they don't see the root cause of offending. And I think people should definitely look at that. And like I say, no one should be like praising and clapping and stuff and cheering when someone takes their own life in prison, because if you go online, guys, right, and you look on any social media platform, reference suicides in prison, most ignorant people that haven't got a fucking clue are slagging off prisoners, dead prisoners. Knocks me sick. And then they want to look at us and think that our moral compass is screwed. Right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I've waffled on for long enough. Let me know what you think about the video. God bless all the victims in the story. You've got listeners in prison, which is like a listening scheme in most prisons. Well, in every prison I've been, well, I've only been in 2 prisons, but I'm assuming it's in every prison, listener scheme. Listener is a prisoner that's trained up by the Samaritans. I think it's a 2-week course, and it's how to, because obviously prisoners might not feel that they want to speak to a prison officer, so they can speak to a listener. He can sit there, and then obviously he can feed information back. It's confidentiality until the point that if it shows that there's serious risk to that individual, and then obviously that prisoner's got to take it back to the officers and stuff. Mental health issues in prison are massive, and like I say, any issues you've got in your life get magnified by about 1 million when you're in prison. And taking your own life isn't a cowardice act. It actually takes a lot of balls to go through with the act. Some people stand in the cell with a razor blade saying they're going to slash up if they don't get a TV because they've been put on basic. Other prisoners don't say anything and they slash up, or they'll string up and they'll take their own life. They're not on the buzzer, they're not kicking the shit out the door, they just take their own life. And like I say, mental health and suicide is definitely something that we need to talk about. The listening scheme in prison is fantastic. On your prison ID card on the back, you've got the number for Samaritans. But the reality is that there's not enough prison officers, and there's not enough, they're not trained, they're not mentally health trained. And neither the nurses for the most part neither. Anyway, guys, I've waffled on long enough. Let me know what you think about the story. God bless the victims. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.